And welcome back to Miniature Dragon Comic Review, coming to you live from Seattle, Washington. As always, I'm your host for the evening, Daniel Doc Gentry, and with me are our gurus, Woody and Alex. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Hey.
Alex, how was your horror con?
It was pretty enjoyable. Got to see a lot of individuals that I haven't seen in a couple of years, since it's been a couple of years since I've been to that convention. Mostly because it falls on Free Comic Book Day and a bunch of other activities that myself and Woody have done. So it was kind of like high school reunion or like a family reunion, but actually worth it.
As opposed to last year's Free Comic Book Day, which was not the successful show you were hoping for.
Right, and I mean, that was kind of like the mindset of like go into the con. This year was like,
yeah.
How many free comic books did you guys give away?
I didn't give away any. I was planning to do something for Free Comic Book Day and give away some free stuff, but my my life got in the way at the last minute. So I just went and grabbed some comics that we will be reviewing coming up.
Did you delegate any of that responsibility?
What do you mean?
Subordinates.
Yes, that's right. All of my assistants are going to be doing things for me. Oh shit! I just had. I was going to hold up one of the books I found, but they're not. Anyways, so you had wanted to do a Savage Avengers, and they had a prequel for Savage Avengers at Free Comic Book Day.
Who wanted to do Savage Avengers?
You.
I think you're getting the Daniels mixed up in our chat. I think you're talking about our graphic designer Daniel Cozy, who did our outline. Wanted to do Savage Avengers, which is cool.
That may be wrong.
Actually, I am a different Daniel. I'm just saying.
All right. Well, I guess we're doing Savage Avengers next week.
As long as I can read it, I'm good.
Yeah, I think we can work something out.
But welcome to this week, and a comic book that Alex and I picked up while we were at Emerald City Comic Con, even though it says the Gen Con special right on the front of it, is Demon Hunters. I think it's the Gamer. No, the Gamer's Nobody's Tales at the end. This is Demon Hunters from Z.O.E. We ran into Z.O.E. Just to give you guys a heads up about Z.O.E. products, they're on Amazon. If you have Amazon Prime, I think it is, that all the videos are up there and you can watch their movies and stuff. And I think one of them is Demon Hunters, which we're going to talk about the comic book today as well. Woody, what's the background on this guy?
Well, first off, we have to be very clear. The Demon Hunters was created by Dead Gentleman Productions. Not Zombie Orpheus Entertainment, but the two companies have merged because they have the exact same staff, so it made no sense for them to have two different companies. Demon Hunters was actually, if I remember right, was actually the first film that group of creators ever made. Back when they were in college at Pacific Lutheran University, or in the 90s, I think. And Matt likes to say that the movie has a 2-drink minimum because they were kind of like figuring it out as they went. And it's actually an interesting thing where you actually have 3 different continuities. There are 3 different versions of the story. You have the original movie series, which is very disconnected from the comics. You have the RPG storyline, which was their first reboot. And then you have the comic book series. Yes, Alex is holding it up right now. That's actually the first RPG. I love the title of the new one, A Comedy of Terrors, which Alex also has. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure the new RPG probably is in continuity with the comic series. And so for some reason they keep rebooting. I don't know why, but the Demon Hunters basically deals with your classic secret society scenario where they are running around fighting the supernatural threats to mankind and trying to kind of go under the radar and keep people from finding out. It's meant to be very tongue-in-cheek and not necessarily like hardcore with violence and gunplay necessarily, but more like a thinking man's game. But Alex and I kind of have some history with the series because, interestingly enough, if you look at the first page of the comic book, which I've got here, it shows a bunch of the Demon Hunters, the elite team, trashing a monster that they're trying to fight. And about the time this book was coming out, Alex and I were working on this thing here, which was the Thunderfrog Charitable Anthology Volume 3. Don't Ask Where Volume 2 went. And the original first page I didn't think it was that similar. I don't know if Alex ever remembers seeing it, but the original.
Yeah, I worked on the PDF and put it together so that we could actually get it into Kablam.
Well, what I mean is the original first page of the Demon Hunters book. Oh. They felt it was almost identical to this sequence right here. I did not agree, but as a result, they ended up redrawing the beginning of the comic book after seeing this, mainly because we beat them to press. And it's interesting. I think they improved it a lot. I actually talked with Ben Honeycutt about that very point, and he felt that it was actually a good creative decision. Maybe he feels differently today, but at the time he didn't mind because he thought that it improved the image a lot. Having to to change things up.
I feel like we're gonna have a conflict of interest doing this comic book all of a sudden.
Why is that?
Having two people that directly worked on it and having a bit of history, so it's not going to be like one of those Marvel or DC books.
Let's be clear. I only indirectly influenced it. I wasn't actually part of the production. I consulted a little bit, but that's as far as I got.
So, anyways, let's jump right in. Alex, what'd you think of this?
So let's go through the matrix that we do. Lettering wise, didn't see anything that stuck out as horribly done. Nothing that reinvented the wheel that made it agitating, or anything that was just like major unique level on that aspect. But as typography goes, solid and true. I don't think anything was done wrong on this. As story, if you do like tongue-in-cheek kind of stories, a kind of what would be the good example? So this is kind of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of meets maybe like Spaced, a BBC series where you have a kind of slice of life characters, interacting with each other, but this has more of that arcane or urban magic in the background. And for me, it's like, I like it because, one, the comedy aspect, and if you know part of their series within Demon Hunters and the rest of what Ben Dobbins, Matt Vancel, and the rest of the individuals from Z.O.E. have done, you can kind of see these little strings, these little tethers of the story basically connecting to various parts. For example, I'm going to say there is one difference in one of the pages within here, very different in comparison to the website. The character Silent Jim, and just to show as a visual, in the comic book, oops, I can find it.
It's a pretty good cartoony version of Don Early, I would say, by the way.
Oh yeah. So if you see it within the comic book,
so that picture that picture's going through. I have it. It's in the thing, Alex. You don't need to.
Oh, okay. So in the comic book, he's actually flipping up the page of the comic book to go to the next panel. On the website that they do, it's very same, except that you can actually see part of the HTML code that Silent Jim is lifting on up.
I like the part where he popped the word balloon.
Oh yeah. And if you get to have a chance to check out this book, you can definitely see some of the various clues and interesting things that correspond with not only Demon Hunters, but Gamers and some of their various other series. And for me, it's that is one of the parts that I really love about this, is just kind of like Stephen King. There's a certain level of connection. There's little cookies, there's little threads, there's little parts that it's if you know the rest of the tale, you can kind of piece together and get a bigger part of their universe.
I like how this creature that supposedly killed Silent Jim was actually Fin Fang Foom. And if Doc doesn't know what I'm talking about, I've got him right behind me on my shelf. You can almost see it.
No, it's not that. I'm trying to run the digital media, and you're bringing up things like I'm supposed to know.
So, what was your general thoughts on the three aspects, Woody?
Oh, well, at the time, one thing that had kind of caught my attention was just like on terms of the lettering, there were like a lot of aspects of it that stank of one's first book. I guess you say like there were little things that they, like, it wasn't terrible, but there were some very creative decisions, but there were a few things that they did that were a little strange, just that somebody wouldn't do if they had more experience. But I mean, like the whole thing, as far as like word balloon placement and like, I mean, it's fine, like I actually was I really like a lot of the creative decisions, like how they handled the drunk effect with the word balloons. I thought that was rather clever, and things like like popping the word balloon and like color choices and like just the whole deal. I mean, I thought it worked really well for what it was. They they picked some interesting font choices rather than just going with same old of everybody else. So no, it's functionally well. I don't know how else to put it.
So as story and art goes, besides lettering?
For me, it is an odd read though, because like I knew the original story before reading this, so it's kind of an odd one for me to be reading a complete reboot of the characters. In fact, there's technically a fourth version of it, I guess you could say, because we also have the version that appeared in the charitable anthology. But like to keep reading the story over and over again, where they keep reinventing the wheel is a strange one for me.
So what are you saying, that Crime Alley, the Waynes get shot and you go from there, or what?
Well, I think it's easier to keep rebooting if you're DC Comics, but it's fine. I mean, I really like what Ben Honeycutt, by the way, was doing with the artwork. I thought it's like just a really amazing art style. It's very easy to get into the story. I guess I'm kind of with like in that camp where I'd kind of like to see what happens with the continuation of the movie storyline, because it left us off at a cliffhanger.
No, I totally get you, and it's one of the things what I would definitely say about the art kind of reminds me of like Tayson's, kind of cartoony, but this has a little bit more realistic aspects in comparison to Tayson's, but it's got that same feel of the way that the expressions on the face, the way that it's like the extended emotions, things of that aspect are really well done.
I think the best thing to say about it is that Ben Honeycutt has a style, and the nice thing about that aspect of it's like sometimes you got people that are like, okay, well, I'm gonna draw what I know sells, right? Because Marvel and DC only hire certain kinds of artists, and if you want to work professionally, you need to learn how to draw this way. But then you got guys like Ben who there's a style to the way they draw, and it's consistent throughout, and it gives the character its own, or the comic book has its own unique language and feel, and it gives it this element that stands out. Kind of like you say with Tayson, like there's certain elements of what Tayson does that are so distinct and so amazing that it's just like, why wouldn't you hire him? And Ben's exactly the same way, where it gives the characters their own unique aspect. And one thing which I find very interesting about this is, for being cartoony, he captures the look of the actors amazingly well. I mean, I think only a couple of these characters in this case are actually based upon the real people, because again, like they keep rebooting, so the characters kind of get reinvented and reimagined. But the two main characters, being Gabriel and Silent Jim, being based on Nathan Rice and Don Early, respectively, these are some amazing interpretations of those two people. Yeah, there they are, right there. And it actually leaves me with the question: is that is like, I don't recall it being discussed. Like, is Gabriel still a half angel in this continuity? I don't know. And but I do think it's interesting. Like the character that's like that's the demigod character, Wolf. Like in the movie, he was dead in 5 minutes, and in this case, he's going to be around a bit longer, which is kind of fun.
So what was your takes, Doc?
All right, non-biased. Here we come. There was a lot of stuff I liked about it, and again, Woody hit it. It had the little cartoony feel, but I knew that going into this, so I prepared myself for it. If it was another comic book, I don't think I would have been as excited about the art in it, even though I understand. I like this kind of cartoony art with the sharp lines instead of like cartoony art where you have bubbles. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like you watch cartoons; those are the two different types of in realistic, but I don't like the bubble ones. It's always thrown me off. Even as a kid, I didn't appreciate it as much. The sharp line thing. I do like the story as one of the matrices in this was fun. I really enjoyed it. In fact, this comic book is a video meets a tabletop game meets this. You know what I mean? So at the end of this, I think if you do it right, the reader wants to play the game. I wanted to play the game. I really felt like I really wanted to get into it. My head started going because I understand that this one is based in Fate Core, but my head started going, how do you get it in a D20 system, which is a little bit more popular, so it's easier to get people to play D20 than it is again to play Fate Core. I like the aspect of this where, you know, even though there's serious things going on in the storyline, there's these funny things that happen, and you can reread this comic 3 or 4 times and catch different things. One of my favorite parts that made me laugh the hardest is when the demons show up, and the two of them are like, fresh meat, and the other guy's like, yeah, fresh. I thought we were going to get a beer. Like, and then he kills the other guys, and then he's like, and you take a message for me. He's like, okay, my supervisor, Jerry, like, I'm just maintenance, man. And I thought that was pretty good. And it was unique, and it had fun like that. It was a little fun style. I did like what Alex was talking about, the whole fourth wall dimension breaking with Silent Jim, but even more so where he's like turning the page for you kind of thing. I thought it was interesting. It was just a lot of fun to have that in there. It was, you know, the lettering. Sorry, the third part. Okay, I like that the demons had difference and the little cybernetic unit had different bubbles. I like that they kept it pretty clear on that. This is the first time I've ever really enjoyed a vampire in the story because she liked dogs and I'm a dog person, so that hit home with me when she talked about the dog in there. Again, I think the story did its job. The art is consistent all the way through, and even though it's not the type of art I enjoyed, it didn't take away from it. I still enjoyed the art in this book. And like you said with the bubbles, I didn't find anything in them. And like Woody said, I love when Silent Jim popped the bubble. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was an interesting little, you know, caveat in the comic book to whatever that is. I haven't seen Demon Hunters. So I'm in a little background where I wanted to read the comic first. I've actually held off not watching it because I wanted to read the comic first and then watch the video.
I have the DVD. It's right over here.
I have Amazon Prime, so it's at the touch of my fingertips.
Yeah.
I do like it though, and you keep talking about like the reboots and not this. I like it because if you're going to reboot it and you keep things different in the comic book, keep it special. And this really, it sounds to me like it would be special that if you own the comic book, here's something a little different but the same, something that you would enjoy. We all like repetitive characters. That's why we have this long line of Batman comics when Batman should have been dead a long time ago. And we have these long line of Superman comics, even though he's probably been really close to the stuff that kills him a long time ago, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I find it amusing. I wonder if they wouldn't, it would behoove them. Are these all new characters from the other ones?
No, the character, well, what it is in the original film, they basically had a main core of characters, and some of them are in here, and then some of them are new.
Okay,
right?
So it's
and then in the second continuity, for the most part, the characters in this book are from that.
Okay, so it's not I would like them from this point forward, if they're gonna do another comic book, to do it like X-Men style, where like get people out, move people in, kind of thing.
Oh, that aspect of X-Men.
Yeah, even if it's the exact same story, just to move the people in and out would be interesting to me and funny. I don't know, it's just a personal thing. All in all,
probably happen.
All in all, even though this is a comic book that is about a movie that is also based on a video or on a tabletop game, independently as a comic book, I thought it was really good. I would want to read the next one, which is with those 3 matrices. That's the question it's supposed to answer, and I really did. I would read the next comic book if there was one in the series. So that's what I thought about it. Go ahead.
Well, if I could jump in, like on a technical point, like the main objection that I have, just on a technical standpoint, is that like and everything flows in the right order. Like all the word balloons and everything, directs the eye line well. It's just that there are points when you would merge balloons together, and you wouldn't have 3 balloons and 3 tails leading back to the same person, which they have done. And that's like just from a professional standpoint, that I found super distracting. But it's also one of those things that by the time that I discovered they were doing this, like it was too late to fix it, because that was the style of how they were doing the comic book. They were already like I think a dozen pages in, and there was like nothing that could be done because that's what they had already done.
As a designer and not an artist, I can tell you, I don't give a rat's booty which one you do, because it didn't interrupt me.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of like back in the conversation we were having with Claire, where she announced that I ruined comics for her because I, educated her on lettering because she's trying to do a professional comic book. And like, well, this is how you do it. That's what the industry expects. And once she saw that information, then goes to read her own comics again. She's like, oh, damn it, Woody. And so, it's basically kind of like, and I don't mean this in any critical sense, but it's like when the majority of indie comic creators out there, like the lettering is the final step, and by the time they get to the lettering point, they're not interested in continuing the study of the field, and they just do whatever, and there tends to be like a massive split between the professionals and the amateurs. And it's a bit of a gulf.
So you can talk about talk about that in anything. Wand making, furniture making. I do a lot of woodworking, no matter what it is. If the wife wants something built, and I can tell you, I can make it perfect right off the bat and screw it up in finishing and have to start over. Everything that you could possibly mess up happens in finishing, and I don't think comic book. From talking to you guys, it seems like it's the same as woodworking, where everybody's amazed when I put a piece of furniture together, but it's still the raw wood, but I got it all cut up and put together. And I always go, dude, that's the easy part. You don't understand. That's the easy part. Why do you think I make my wife stain the furniture she wants in the house? Because if somebody screws it up, I don't want it to be this guy. I can stain. I know what I'm doing. But if it gets messed up or she doesn't like it, I can point fingers and go, well, honey, you did it. Like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. And
I would think that staining would be the easy part.
No, staining's not as easy as you think if you do it right. It's about time that things are on there, mixture of it, length, wiping, when to know to leave stain on for longer, and when to know that you just have to do extra coats of stain. When can you do them? How long do you let it dry before you do something else? And don't even get me started with now with the wands and the boxes, polyurethane coats, buffing, making it glass. There's a ton with finishing, and staining's hard. People mess it up all the time. You ever see speckles? I can show you an example. Hell, I've done it right there. You see the little speckles that are on that board? Those speckles are because when I was staining it, I left the stain dry too long before wiping it, and it was mostly because of the area I was doing it in. I just didn't go back fast enough, and it got absorbed into the wood really hard on a splatter point.
There's a lady that commissioned me to do a Game of Thrones wood burning piece, and she wanted it with a clear coat so her kids wouldn't ruin it. And it was interesting challenge, like exactly what you're talking about, trying to get the clear coat on, because I was doing it and there was not like there was a lot of dust in the environment, but I had to go over it again with some sandpaper and redo it because it like stuff landed on it somehow.
Woody, call me next time. I could have saved you a lot of heartache.
Well, it was before the show.
Get number 3 steel wool. It's not that abrasive. That'll take off all the air bubbles, and then just get yourself a piece of non-woven cloth of some kind for buffing, and then rub it really fast, and it'll make it go away. You won't have to redo everything.
Well, I was using like a sponge, to like a sponge brush. And it was fine.
Yeah.
It worked out. You know.
I use 4 coats. This is what I'm talking about, people. See how we're talking here? There's a million ways to finish it that are absolutely correct. None of them are different than another. It's just tricks. I've been doing this for 30 years because I can tell you how to correct the mistakes in that. The only way to correct this mistake is to rebuild it again. And I'm trying to keep costs down, so spending more money on wood would not help what I'm trying to do here. So I will put another coat over it, try to make it look as good as possible. But know from my heart that the speckle is part of the character of the box of that wand if you buy it. So, final thoughts though, Woody.
Well, I didn't enjoy the series. Like it was. That's one thing about it is that it's a fun read, and I can't remember the guy's name. The guy that's writing it now, that basically took over from Matt. But he's turning out a real fun story here, and remind me his name. The guy that played the mad scientist.
We are
100.
I'm looking.
We're 100% on top of it, people.
The credits aren't.
They aren't where they're supposed to be. Got it. Well, like obviously I have technical issues, but like the bottom line is it's a fun read, and the fact that like Doc, having coming in completely blind with no past experience with the IP, was completely floored by it. I mean, that right there is, I think, all you need to know. Like it, that suddenly we have a convert, and who knows, Doc might actually go, watch the movie now and move on, to the rest of it.
I guess 5 points deducted from Gryffindor because I am not seeing.
And
don't worry, Dumbledore will cheat me in, and Slytherin will get its house cup ticket.
And by the way, I have to give a shout out. You have to see Syphilitic Ninja Vampires. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's on YouTube. Check it out.
Alex, final thoughts.
So, I might have a bit of a bias, but I definitely enjoyed this. This is something that actually is kind of in my wheelhouse of like that enjoyment of the tongue-in-cheek kind of very Brit kind of humor with that urban magic in the background. And like, I would definitely say it's like, I would love to see more of the series continue between what Demon Hunter Slice of Life has done, the movies that they've done, the rest of the YouTube, plus the comic book and the role-playing. It'd be great to see more adaptations and definitely another comic book series from them.
And I'll admit that I really wish that there was more. Like there was a comic book series. I understand the purpose of this comic book, and yes, I will watch the flicks and stuff, but I think this would be a fun comic book. You can do things on paper in comic books that you can't do without a big budget on screen, that you can't plan for in certain things. I love it because comic book to tabletop to me relates way better than movie to tabletop to me. Like, because you can do stuff in tabletop. You can make it fantastic. You can do things that nobody can really do. And I think the comic books represent that better than a live action movie do. And let's just get honest. Every live action that I've seen off of everything has sucked. I want to utterly destroy whoever ruined Full Metal Alchemist for me. You don't just take dubs off of other thing and then put it into some live action thing and call it a movie. Like, it was terribly done. There's just so many. That's the one that gets me though, because I love Full Metal Alchemist and y'all ruined it with that live thing, and somebody should have warned me. But anyways, find Woody and Alex and all their work at miniaturedragon.com. Find my work at docswands.com. You can find us if you're watching this, obviously right underneath us, I have all of our @s where you can find us. Those are mostly Twitter. Hit us up, send us emails, do that other stuff. Alex is doing a really cool thing with his drawing right now, which I like because you get to see the drawing happen with on his Kujin channel, so that was actually pretty funny. There's a lot of stuff going on is what I'm saying. We are right now about a month away from SummerCon. We'll update everybody on booth numbers and stuff like that when we get closer, but we're there. Things are working. Enjoy everything. Read more comics. Keep it nerdy. And live your dreams. I love the way he waved.
What was that?